Hello everyone. In this session, we are going to understand the pipeline that is implemented in the RISC systems. In one of the previous sessions, we discussed about the RISC architecture, that is reduced instruction set computer, in which the instruction set is pretty much limited. The number of machine language instructions are pretty much limited. Now let us understand the pipelining system that is used in RISC systems. When it comes to the RISC, of course, you know that the machine with a very fast clock cycle that executes at the rate of one instruction per cycle. Every clock cycle, RISC ensures that one instruction will get executed. Of course, the instruction set is very simple. That is, the number of instructions that are available in a RISC system are pretty much minimal. And the instruction size is always fixed. Of course, it is 16-bit. And when it comes to the ALU operations, the ALU operations will only get performed in between register to the register. That is, the operands must be available only within the registers. Now, let us understand the RISC pipeline. When it comes to the RISC pipeline, there are three stages. The first one is instruction fetch. The second one is instruction decode, and also the ALU operation. And the third one is write a register, in which in the first stage, instruction will get fetched, and in the second stage, instruction will get decoded, and registers values will be read, and ALU operations also will get performed. Similarly, when it comes to the final stage, the final product, the output of the operation will be written back into a register. Of course, any instructions can be classified into three different instructions. One is data manipulation instructions, that is addition, subtraction, or multiplication, in which the data gets manipulated. The second one is the data transfer instructions, in which the data will get transferred from one location to another location, typically registered to the main memory. In data manipulation instructions, these are the operations that are going to be performed. When it comes to the data transfer instructions, in the instruction fetch, of course, the instruction will get fetched. And the second stage, which is called A stage, decoding will get performed. In addition to which, effective address of the location will get calculated. I will explain you by using an example. Let us say I want to execute an instruction that is store 450. When it comes to store 450, you know that the accumulator contents will get transferred to memory of 450. Now, accumulator, you know that it is a processor's register. The value of the accumulator will have to get transferred to one of the memory locations. Every time when we use a memory location, when we try to locate a memory location, you know that the effective address is needed to be calculated. Various addressing modes are available in this regard. By using one of those addressing modes which are used in the instruction, effective address will get calculated. After calculating the effective address, the contents of the accumulator will get transferred to the specific memory location. For the addressing modes, you just go through the addressing mode session. So in the A stage, decoding will get performed and effective address will get calculated. And finally, in the E stage, which is called execution stage, the contents will get finally transferred to the destination location, registered to the memory or memory to the register. Now, there are another classification of the instruction in which when the instruction gets executed, the sequence of the instructions will get altered, which are coming under program control instructions. For an example, if there is a branch instruction and when the branch is taken, the program control will be altered from a specific sequence to another sequence. For an example, in 24th instruction, I do have a call instruction. In the 24th address of the main memory, I do have a call instruction, call 450. Here, generally, right after the current instruction, the next instruction will get executed. But whenever we execute a branch instructions, this branch instruction will alter the sequence of the execution of the instructions. That is, rather than executing the next instruction, the control will be transferred to the branch location. Here, we are calling an instruction which is available at 450th location. Here, the control will get transferred to the 450th instruction rather than the very next instruction. Once again, generally, a program will have a flow. Right after the first instruction, there will be a second instruction. After second, there will be a third instruction. This flow will always be taken unless there is a branch instruction. Whenever there is a branch instruction, we will branch to the desired location rather than simply executing the next instruction. For an example, call instruction. Whenever there is a call instruction, a branch will be taken to the address that is specified within the instruction. So rather than executing 25, we will go to 450th instruction and we will start our execution sequence. So this is a branch instruction. These comes under program control instructions. During the program control instruction, control will get altered. So in which the first stage, of course, the instruction will get fetched. In the second stage, which is called A stage, the decoding will get performed and branch address will be evaluated. Which is the address that is needed to be taken will get evaluated. Finally, a branch will be taken, after which the program counter value will have to be saved. You know why we need to save a program counter value whenever we take a branch? Because when we call a subroutine, right after the execution of the subroutine, we should return back to the calling routine. In order to get back to the calling routine, we should be able to save the program counter value. So here, the program counter value will be saved. So this is all about RISC pipeline, in which mainly we do have 3 stages. And the first stage, of course, for any kind of an instruction, it will be instruction fetch. But second stage varies between the type of the instructions. If it is data manipulation instruction, second stage is all about decoding and reader registers and ALU operation. If it is a data transfer instruction, instruction will get decoded and effective address will be calculated. If it is a program control instruction, of course, decoding will get performed and branch address will be evaluated. And finally, in the E stage, which is called the execution stage, output will be written into a register in the data manipulation instructions, and a transfer will happen in data transfer instructions. And during the program control instructions, and when it comes to the program control instructions, program counter value will be saved. This is all about a RISC pipeline. Now, let us talk about how delayed load is going to be performed in the RISC pipeline. What is delayed load? Let us recall what is a delayed load. Whenever there is a data dependency, we are going to delay fetching of the next instruction, right? Similarly, when it comes to the RISC architecture also, we are going to perform delayed load by using a simple mechanism. Let us understand that mechanism. The operation that is going to be performed here in this case is R3 is equal to R1 plus R2. Initially, R1 will be fetched into a register and R2 will be fetched into a register. And finally, these two registers will get added, and finally, the contents will get transferred to R3. That is, R1 is available at a memory location. R2 is also available at a memory location. From memory location, let us call R1 initially as A and R2 initially as B. A will get transferred to R1. B will get transferred to R2. And finally, R1 and R2 will get added, will get transferred to R3. Let us understand what is the difficulty in the pipeline when this instruction is getting executed. You know that initially, from memory address, a value will get transferred to R1. Next, from another memory address, a value will get transferred to R2. Finally, R1 and R2 will get added and gets transferred to R3. And now let us understand. First, we'll execute one instruction which is called load R1. You know that when you want to transfer the contents of a memory location to one of the processor's register, we are going to use an instruction which is called load. Let us say load 250. Memory of 250 will get transferred to R1 in this case. So when we say load R1, in the first clock cycle, the instruction will get fetched. In the second clock cycle, instruction will get decoded and effective address of the memory location will get calculated, and finally ALU operation will also get performed. When it say E, in the final stage, you know that the content will get transferred to R1. So when you execute load R1 at the E stage, R1 will be loaded with a value. So after the third clock cycle, R1 will get loaded. So when it comes to load R2, when it gets executed in the first stage, that is instruction fetch, instruction will get fetched. In the second stage, instruction will be decoded, and finally the memory operation, rather, the ALU operation, bigger pardon, is going to be performed. Finally, right after the E stage, that is at the fourth clock cycle, R2 is going to have its value from a memory location. That is, after the third clock cycle, R1 will get its value. After the fourth clock cycle, R2 will get its value. Now, there is a dependency in between these two instructions. That is, unless R1 and R2 got completely loaded, we can't perform R1 plus R2. But here, when this instruction gets started execution, of course, the instruction will be fetched right after the instruction fetch phase, that is I phase. But when it comes to the instruction decode phase and the ALU operation phase, which is the second phase, both operands are not yet available. Let us understand once again carefully. R1 will be loaded only after the third clock cycle. R2 will get loaded only after the fourth clock cycle. But here you can understand there is a conflict. In order to perform add R1 plus R2, right at the beginning of this instructions execution, only R1 is available within the processor, but not R2. Where, at which clock cycle the ALU operation is going to be performed? In the second, in this stage, A stage. But when it comes to this A stage, only one operand is available. Second operand is not available, right? In order to get the second operand, we need to wait for the fourth clock cycle to finish. Unless the fourth clock cycle is completely finished, we can't get the second operand. In this regard, there is a conflict. So this can be solved by using a compiler technique, which is called a delayed load. The compiler is going to separate the instructions in which there is a dependency. Now you can clearly see, because right after the load R2, there is a dependency, because addition cannot be performed unless R2 is fetched. So load R2 and add R1 plus R3 are separated by using a no operation instruction. That is, we need to separate these two instructions at least for a clock cycle, because in order to get R2, we need to wait till fourth clock cycle gets finished, because only after the fourth clock cycle, the value of the R2 will get loaded in this register. So we're going to separate these two instructions by a single clock cycle. In the single clock cycle, we are going to insert an instruction which is called NOP, in which no operation is going to be performed. This is a simple and typical pipeline, the three-stage pipeline, which is implemented in the RISC system. In this, data dependencies are always dealt by using a compiler technique, that is a delayed load. Thank you.